Hey everyone, my name is Derek Barnick, and this video is going to be going over common mistakes and really some silly mistakes that a lot of people have been making in BSG, which is causing some people to have a lot of panic. And we're going to go into things that I suggest to do that might help you and your team, and things not to do, which are some of these common silly mistakes that are you're not going to have a very good score if you keep making these mistakes. So I got this from a viewer, and we're going to go look at some of which a lot of these have been really good. As you can see, their earnings per share is 3.5, and they have a 31.6 ROE with a credit rating of A and image rating 66. But they still are making some very common mistakes, and they could be doing a lot better if they fix these mistakes, in my opinion. So I'm going to go over these mistakes, and I'm also going to go over some of my personal suggestions on how to make sure your company's doing well in BSG. So hopefully you can beat the competition. So first off, we're going to go over compensation and training. This is a fairly easy sheet to make decisions on. I don't see really any mistakes here. One thing I would suggest though is invest more into best practices training. They're not really getting any benefit from having a standard material of 0.05 and zero point 0.1. Now, what I'm thinking is if they bumped this up like an extra $400, maybe $600, they'd probably hit that next mark to get an extra bump, and it's a no-brainer to do that. Pay the little bit extra money to hit that extra bump up, because it's cumulative, so they're going to get it for the rest of the 8 years that most of you are playing right now. They're playing a 10-year game. Invest quite a bit into this and get the benefits up front, and then you're going to keep those benefits for the remainder of the game. So make sure you pay attention to best practices of training. But other than that, everything else seems really good. This is what exactly I would be doing here, and it's pretty similar numbers to what I would be doing with base wage and incentive pay, and then also fringe benefits. So let's go to the next page. All right, so for here, everything is seeming okay so far. They have a pretty good reject rate. They're actually doing really well on their reject rates, and everything looks good here. They're investing a lot into Sigma 6 and TQM, which is another cumulative thing that I suggest putting money into, or especially early on, so you get the cumulative benefits for the remaining years. One mistake that I noticed here that is kind of a big one is if you look at their total branded production needed is 8,600, but they're only creating 6,600. So there's a huge gap in total brand demand versus what they're supplying right now. So this definitely needs to be fixed. They probably need to, looks like they need to expand and build more equipment in both of these areas to be able to service that demand. And here's another mistake is they don't have any extra capacity for private label, and that's a huge that in my opinion that's a huge mistake. You need private label. First of all, you get a huge image rating boost, and it really benefits your net profit at the end of the day. So I would definitely suggest that you get enough to satisfy your demand for wholesale and internet sales, but then also make sure you have enough for branded or private label operations at the end, which is important. So for this page, it looks like they added new equipment, which is totally fine. Because like I said, they definitely needed equipment. Now they probably should add some more. I don't know. It kind of seems like they sold a lot of their equipment, and now they're re-adding it, which honestly I've never seen before, but it's kind of seeming like it's working for them. So I'd be interested to kind of see how that works. And if you have done this, please let me know in the comments, because like I said, I haven't personally seen a company sell a lot of their production equipment, and then re-add it throughout the years. So it's quite an interesting way to play the game. Um, Here's the biggest mistake with what they did here was, let's get this. Well, I don't know why they paid for this one. Mainly because they're not saving anything; they're actually losing money on it. So like all these don't make sense. Um, I would. This one's okay. They're gonna save money. They're gonna gain money on this one over the years. They need to do this one. This one's gonna gain money over the years. And honestly, there's usually option B from a lot of the games that I've seen is option B is almost a no-brainer in all of them. Except I probably would not invest in it on it if you're unless you're expanding into Europe, Africa a lot, or Latin America, which I would honestly probably suggest. Um, I wouldn't pay for option B or any of these options in any facilities that you think you might not use in the future. So you need to think long term with a lot of this stuff. Don't be stuck in the short term. You have to kind of think about everything long term so you can beat the competition. But other than that, everything looks fine on this page. All right, so this page, everything is okay on this page. This is something similar to what I would do. This is something what I would be doing is allocating appropriately like this. It looks like they are clearancing some shoes, which is actually a good idea. Now they don't have very many pairs of shoes to clearance, which yeah, I'm not quite sure if they needed a clearance or anything, but they're making good margin over cost, so I say go for it. Now, the big mistake that I'm seeing right now is I have no idea why they have negative surplus here, or shortfall. That is, you never ever want a shortfall in your uh, warehouse operations. You always, I would suggest at least having 100 to 200 pairs above um, this and have a surplus, because if you're not selling the shoes, your competitors are going to sell them for you. So never have a negative here. Make sure you always have a positive in these categories, or you're just hurting your company and it's not going to be good. All right, so for this page, some common mistakes I see are people do not raise the price. Um, be a little bit aggressive with your price raising, I would say, at sometimes. What I would do is I would type in, for example, I'd type in 71, and then I would look over at the net profit and see if the percentage goes up. Then I would type in 72, see if it goes up, 73, see if it goes up, and kind of play around with the numbers to see what works best. One thing I do like is they got rid of search engine advertising, which honestly, I would probably drop these all down to zero because you don't really need it. If this is another one where you want to play with the numbers to see, okay, does search engine advertising help or not? So, for example, I would start at zero, and then I would click on it, use my arrow key, and just keep clicking down and see where this percentage for the net profit goes. And if it goes up, great. Then you want to keep your search engine advertising high. Same with free shipping. Most of the time it's a no, but towards the end of the game or towards the middle of the game, you're probably going to want to switch free shipping on. So that's also where you're going to want to look at your net profit. But other than that, I think they're doing good. They're making good operating margins other than Latin America. But honestly, Latin America can be pretty tough to make good operating margins on for the most part, unless you really raise your price. But if they're making money, I think they're fine to be operating there. All right, so wholesale marketing. Common mistakes I'm seeing with wholesale marketing is here's a big one, and actually this isn't very common, but here's something that is a big no-no, and I've accidentally messed up on this too, but I was able to rebound during my game. At least my first game, I don't make the mistake anymore do not lower your retail support. If you lower your retail support below the average, you're not going to have any but retailers, or your retailers is just going to dive way down, and you're not going to have nearly as much demand as you want. And this is going to hurt them a ton. Not this year, but next year, I think it's going to hurt them a ton. So you need to make sure that your retail support stays above average and never drop it down to zero. Like I don't think it would ever work personally. So please make sure you watch this and don't mess with this too much unless it's going up. Other than that, keep raising the price. Make sure that's below, I believe, 40% of the internet marketing, or within that. Make sure internet marketing is 40% above your wholesale price, because that will also mess up your retailer support. I haven't seen anybody make that mistake, but it'd be a really silly mistake to make if you're not paying attention to that. But here's another thing, just play with the numbers. I would be pushing this up to 51, 52, 53, see where the net profit goes and see if it goes up or down. Now, when they're playing with this number, because they have a negative number here, it's gonna, if they're raising the price, it's not gonna work. They're not gonna really truly see if it's benefiting them or not until they get a positive number here, because as they raise, well, actually, I'm sorry, the negative, they want a negative number if they're raising the price for the most part, because they're gonna lose demand, which is gonna make that shortfall go down. So it's kind of a touchy thing, and I mean, I can get into it more into another video, but just kind of, that's something you need to pay attention to. Same with brand advertising. If they raise brand advertising, this is going to raise the demand, so then their shortfall is going to go up. So that's another thing where I play with it, where I go down to zero, I press the arrow keys throughout all the selections and see where net profit ends up in certain positions. But you have to pay attention to your surplus and shortfall to make sure that it's actually playing the numbers correctly. Other than that, mail-in rebates, that's something you can kind of play with, and also look at the net profit. Delivery time, that's something where it's either good or bad. You can also just play with those numbers to see what it does to the net profit. One thing I noticed here, which is a big no-no, is if you're losing money in a country, especially 28%, get out of the country. Like, don't sell to a country where you're losing that much money per shoe. It doesn't make any sense unless you are strapped for cash and you absolutely need cash, which I don't even think at that point you're going to gain any cash by selling at a loss. It just doesn't make sense. You can put zero for your wholesale price and zero everything out, and then you won't sell to that country for that year. You can always go back, but it does not make sense, in my opinion, to sell at a operating profit loss. It just doesn't work. So that's what I found. That's what I think is here, is especially, and I see this negative, like in common mistakes, when people send me their decisions and stuff to take a look at. I'll see these negatives and I'm like, you don't have negatives there. Those need to be positive. All right, so private label. Mistakes here is, I guess, honestly, they don't have any private label, which is really affecting them, because I think they would be doing way better if they could sell more shoes and have private label, personally. And this is something where you want to be at the global minimum. So just play around with these numbers. It'd probably be these mainly until they get this to the global minimum. And then ship them accordingly. Always try to stay first focused on where you have shipping or production facilities, and then ship from there. I would probably suggest focusing on your Asia Pacific facilities for shipping to Europe, Africa, and Latin America. Also, make sure you play around with these numbers and see what other people are doing, because you do not want to be way high, because then you're not going to win the bid, and it's just going to be a waste of time and potential money for you. Always try to be somewhere in the middle, or honestly, if you can be at the lowest and still make a good margin, it's worth it, because you're going to be boosting up your image rating, which is important. And then also your net profit's probably going to go up too, quite a bit. one thing to do is do not forget to change these. If you really think you're going to get the bid for private label, do not forget to change these to yes, because you do have the opportunity to get extra points by being close to your projected scores. And if you have no, but you win them all, you probably will not get your projected bonus for accuracy of the projected performance. So make sure you do that. All right, here, honestly, it's pretty simple. I don't think they really have any mistakes here. They actually did really good by getting these celebrities for 500 apiece when everybody else was paying quite a bit. I'm not sure what these ones look like. They became unassigned. I'm guessing they're gonna have to pay. Personally, I'm thinking they're gonna have to pay more than 1,500. Since these people paid 3,000, and all of a sudden these other companies are gonna be like, wow, we have no contracts and we really want some celebrities because they increase demand quite a bit. I'm guessing they're gonna have to pay more than that, but that's just just personal opinion. So for corporate social responsibility and citizenship, these are okay. What I would have suggested is not to buy these early on. I would save them because they are a nice extra boost at the end to boost up your image rating, and it can actually boost your profit because you get a one-time boost to your productivity for every 100 pairs, or result in a one-time productivity increase of 100 pairs at each facility. That can help boost your numbers, and I personally save them until the very end. Please, what I would suggest is focus on charitable contributions and energy efficiency initiatives. These, I believe, from when I read the player guide, is they're the best noticed. Apparently, like when I was reading, is they are seen to the public as the best. So I think they give you the best points or image rating boost for the money spent. So I would suggest focusing primarily on these two. And honestly, everything else is just kind of up to you. But these are the most important in my opinion. And last but not least, we have good old finance and cash flow. This is personally my favorite because I really enjoy finance. But please, always buy stock back if you can. I don't know why they can't purchase any stock back this year. It doesn't make sense to me. But if you can buy stock back and afford it for the year, please buy that, especially before you pay dividends. Dividends are, in my opinion, from what I noticed, dividends are pointless until towards the end, because a lot of these companies, you're in a growth stage. You look at the business model and like the life model of a business, like you're in a growth stage right now, and they're especially in its first years. Don't pay dividends. Make sure you're buying stocks back, then pay dividends in the future when you can't buy stocks back, and that's going to lower shareholder equity more. So you can continue raising your ROE and EPS. But this is a very, very common mistake is people don't repurchase stocks, and I don't understand why, because it's so beneficial for your long-term EPS. So please make sure you do that. Other than that, it's pretty normal to take out a loan, and it's not a bad thing to have to do that. One thing I would kind of focus on is look at your loans here, see what the interest rates are, and see if you can get a better interest rate, and then play with the numbers and pay off portions of your interest here and get lower interest rates. Now, one thing I haven't really noticed before is these interest rates are extremely high. So I don't know if it's just because of the game they're playing or what their professor put in. But I wouldn't suggest taking those interest rates, clearly. But maybe it's just their game and that's all they have to really get. one thing I'm concerned about is their interest coverage ratio is negative, or last year was negative, um, which you want to stay away from. But they're going to be doing a lot better projected this year. So other than that, I think this team, if you're watching this, thank you for sending me your stuff, and I hope this helps you analyze what you have been doing, and I hope it helps everybody else to see what mistakes they might be making during the game. Keep in mind that not, first of all, everything I say is subjective, and it might not work for you because every game's different, and you need to make sure that the decisions you're making are going into your long-term strategy and working appropriately. The last most common mistake that I've noticed, and this is something I can't show because I don't have a picture of it, during that competitive graph with the circles, please make sure that you are differentiating yourself. So regardless if you're going to the top right corner or bottom right corner or top left corner, being a high SQ rating with a high price or being low SQ, low price, um, please make sure you differentiate yourself from the competition in some way, because it's just not good if you have get into battles with other companies, in my opinion. It just makes everything more difficult. And do not go to the bottom left corner. I have never really seen anybody go down there, and I think there's a reason why, because it doesn't work and you will not do well. So please don't go down there. But other than that, I hope that this video helped you. Please leave comments with any questions, and I try to get back to you as soon as I can. I'll also leave my email in the description if you want to get a hold of me. But other than that, I appreciate everybody's support so far, all the subscriptions and likes on my videos, and I hopefully will continue to make more videos in the future. And good luck, and I hope this helps you beat your competition. Thanks for watching.